Wednesday afternoon, transfer deadline day is tomorrow, and far be it from me to pass up the opportunity to do a video about the West Ham striker situation. Now, the breaking news, and this is not confirmed, this is just me talking gibberish here. The breaking news on Sky and everywhere else is that West Ham have agreed a fee for Maxi Gomez, which is the guy we've been linked with. Well, it's all transfer window, basically, for 40 million quid. Now, the idea is that he stays there, I do, but it's Celta Vigo, and I think they're fighting relegation. Not looked at the Spanish league, couldn't tell you, but apparently that's what's happening. So he stays there for the rest of the season. Hopefully he becomes the saviour, the hero, saves them from relegation, then joins the Premier League team. Hopefully we're still in the Premier League, but listen, we'll discuss that in a little bit. I'm sure we're very, very safe. Now, transfers are always negotiated and are always paid in instalments anyway. So that's no big diversion from how things normally happen. So here's the thing. Now, if that's who Pellegrini has decided that he wants to lead the line at West Ham United, if that's who he's decided is the striker that best fits his system, then great. I'm all for it. I don't claim to be an expert on the player, but I do trust in Pellegrini, in as much as the players he's brought in so far have looked pretty good in the main. But look at what happened with Marko Arnautovic. Not only the saga, but the fact he's picked up a knock. Look at how disinterested Chicharito appears to be. Look how unsuited to Pellegrini's style Andy Carroll is. I would suggest we're in need of a striker. Of course, I forgot Perez there. Would you be happy Perez leading the line from now until the end of the season? I don't think he's really what we need. We've got young Silva there, but young Silva should remain just that. Young and there and ready on standby to come in as and when required. What I don't get is we are willing to pay 40 million quid, which is 3 million less than the asking price. It's not just the asking price, apparently, it's a buyout clause. So if we spend 3 million more, we trigger the buyout clause. Now, whilst it might be very, very nice for Maxi Gomez to save his club from their current situation, lovely, really nice, we need him now. The team needs him now. Not only do we need a better striker up front and somebody that's going to better suit Manuel Pellegrini's system, but the squad needs a lift. They need that injection of a new player and a quality player and a £40 million player coming in and just sparking a bit of life into training, giving the players that might be getting a little bit stale a little bit of belief, and just having one more quality player on the pitch. So I don't know why we're not spending this additional 3 million quid. That needs to be done. Just do it. Get it paid. If we've got the money, if we're going to pay it, if it's going to be paid in instalments anyway, make the transfer happen now. I mean, literally, do it now. Let's get him in there for the Liverpool game. Why not? Why not? I know a lot of these transfers are best left until the summer under normal circumstances, but these are not normal circumstances that West Ham are in. This is a crazy situation that's happening with the club. The on-off saga of Arnautovic is absolutely unprecedented. And just looking at how things have panned out, there's no guarantee, none whatsoever, that Marko Arnautovic is going to be worth 45 million or even 35 million in the summer. As I've said this many times, if you were a club looking at him, you probably wouldn't buy him. And you look at what happened last night. Now, as it turns out, he didn't actually get into an ambulance. He was on crutches as a precautionary measure. He's not even going for the scan today, apparently. So we don't know what's wrong with him. So we fear the worst. I absolutely get it. It's typical West Ham. A striker signs a new contract, and which we didn't want him to sign anyway, and then immediately breaks down. Typical West Ham, right? Another one to add to the injury list. The initial fear is that he's out until the rest of the season. Might not be the case. In fact, old Fabianski there possibly has a worse injury. Apparently, he can't straighten his arm, which is a bit of a worry for a goalkeeper, really, isn't it? So that's what I want to do, is just to sort out this striker situation. I'm delighted with the ambition for the club if they are going for this guy who I hadn't heard of before a month ago, but just because I haven't heard of him doesn't mean he's not a good player. I've heard him called the new Diego Costa. Of course, I've done a little bit of research. I've looked at his footage on YouTube, and fine. If that's who they want, great. But look, I would look good on YouTube, so I don't place too much stock on that. If you took some clips from anybody's matches throughout the season, everybody does something at some point that's worthy of note. But I do trust Pellegrini. I do trust Julius. If we know two things, is that Pellegrini knows more about football than me, and I know more about plumbing than him. So I will trust his judgment on that. I also think, bearing in mind everything that's happened with the Arnautovic situation, I just think Pellegrini probably could do with a little boost himself. I think he's coming to West Ham. He's been given the money, got to spend on what he wanted, and I don't think he wanted Arnautovic to get the new contracts. I really don't. I think it's unsettled everything. I think the fact that Sullivan did it, probably did it in a panicked type of way to try and get him on side, I don't think it's necessarily been sanctioned by Pellegrini. So I think it would probably do him a lot of good for Sullivan to say, look, oh, okay, look, I've done this. I've tried to sort out of his situation. It's not worked out very well, but here's that other player you want. And off the back of the season before, when obviously he's got Anderson, which is the player he really, really wanted, I think it just shows willing, and it shows a little bit of cooperation in Sullivan dealing with Pellegrini, and hopefully we can start to address some of the other issues that are in the team in the summer, because I do think there's a lot of dead wood in that team. There's a lot of players. I've gone on about this. If you watched the review last night, you know what I think about technique. I won't labour the point anymore. But I do think there's a number of players that just aren't going to feature under Pellegrini. And I mean that in first team. I think there's some that just should and probably will be shipped out. I would name Ogbonna in that. I would and certainly Obiang as well would be a part of that. I think Perez is just not going to fit in. I think Carroll is not going to fit in. I think those guys just go. I think people like Snodgrass and Noble are very, very important for team spirit, because they're solid characters. And I think when they are placed in a team with better players around them, then they will thrive and they still have a job to do. So I would retain them as squad players. But I think in a starting 11, there's a lot of work that needs doing. I still think he's going to need a midfielder with energy and technique. We were painfully slow yesterday. I thought we were painfully slow. Of course, Anderson's fast. And, of course, Antonio is very fast as well. But I do think centrally we lacked any real pace. And you can take that from centre-back. You can take it through to central midfield. And even up front. Listen, Arnautovic can sometimes be quick on occasion. But last night was not one of those occasions. And Chicharito's, you wouldn't say he's quick. He's sharp and he can react in the box. You wouldn't say he's quick. Andy Carroll, well, no need to say anything there. And I don't think Perez is a quick player either. So I do think that we need an injection of pace, and I'd certainly do it at central midfield. And we've been linked with Che Adams as well, just in case you haven't noticed. I think he might be going to Southampton though. He's a speed merchant. He's an absolute speed merchant as well. Right, anyway, I'm rambling. I just wanted to have my say on the Maxi Gomez situation. Leave your comments below. On the main channel, Gio is going to be doing a transfer special tonight. It's lunchtime. It's whatever. What is the time? It's midday. It's midday on Wednesday. By the time Gio does his video tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if things have moved on significantly. Either the deal is close to being done, or everything I've said is absolute rubbish because someone has come out and said it's not going to happen. But I do believe, and now David Sullivan needs to do something. He'd have watched that game last night. He was there. You saw him on the television cameras. He would not have been impressed. Pellegrini, sorry, I know I said I'd go. I just want to make this point because I've just thought of it. Pellegrini said in his press conference afterwards, when he was sort of making mitigation and excuses, if you want, for the poor performance, he mentioned the lack of creative players in midfield, which I thought was key, and certainly goes along with what I've thought for quite a long time. This is not how Pellegrini wants to play. I mean, he must have been totally frustrated when someone like Pedro Obiang came on. And I like him as a person. Obiang's a good guy. But I thought he was at fault for that. I think it was the third goal, wasn't it? He gave the ball away in much the same way as he did against Wimbledon. So he can't have him there. The technique and passing is just not good enough. And I just feel a little bit sorry for Anderson because he's trying these things. And when you've got no one technical around you, the tricks and flicks that he's trying, they look rubbish because no one else is on your wavelength. He needs someone to play triangles with, and there's just no one there to do it. And I just think Pellegrini touched on it as well. There's a lot of work still to be done. I bet he can't wait to get Nasri, Wilshere, Lanzini, just one other person in there. I tell you what, with West Ham, sod's law, as soon as we get that other technical person in to play alongside Felipe Anderson, you know what's going to happen to Felipe Anderson.